You know, there are stories that whisper through the ages, texts that hover right on the edge of what we accept as scripture. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most enigmatic of them all, the lost cosmic mystery of the Book of Enoch. But first, just think about this for a second. What if a book, a text that people once held as sacred as the Bible itself, wasn't just lost to time? What if it was intentionally scrubbed from history, actively hidden away? And that question brings us to this word, apocrypha. Now, we hear that word and we immediately think fake or untrue, but that's not what it originally meant. In Greek, it simply meant hidden or secret. It was a word for sacred books that were thought to hold knowledge that was frankly too profound, too cosmically huge for just anybody to read.
Which brings us to the first part of our story, the forbidden scripture. This is a history that was deliberately buried.
See, the Book of Enoch wasn't just misplaced. People actively fought against it. Its teachings made some of the later church fathers so angry that one of them, a guy named Philostratus, called it straight-up heresy. Then, in the 2nd century AD, a prominent rabbi, Simeon ben Joachai, actually put a curse on anyone who believed in it. So it was denounced, banned, cursed, and then for more than 1,000 years, it just vanished from the Western world.
But here's the thing. It didn't stay lost. When the Dead Sea Scrolls were discovered at Qumran, it was an absolutely incredible find. And among all those ancient texts, archaeologists found pieces from 10 different copies of the Book of Enoch. This was it, real physical proof of how old this book was and how important it was to the people who so carefully preserved these scrolls.
And get this, its influence was so deep, it's actually quoted right in the New Testament. The book of Jude literally cites a prophecy from Enoch, treating it like it's the real deal. So this so-called lost book, it was absolutely part of the conversation for the very first Christians. So that leads to the big question. Why was this book so dangerous? Well, let's get into the story it tells, because this is the heart of the controversy. A story about angels, giants, and sin. A truly cosmic transgression.
What on earth was written in the Book of Enoch that was so threatening, somebody felt they had to erase it?
Well, it starts with a group of divine beings called the Watchers, and they committed a sin that was just unthinkable. They left their post up in the high heavens, this holy, eternal place, came down to earth, and, as the book puts it, they defiled themselves with women.
I mean, this was a complete violation of the cosmic order. It was a mixing of the divine and the mortal that was just never, ever supposed to happen. And out of this unholy union came something completely unnatural. The book calls them the Nephilim, or in other words, giants. Now, that might sound like something out of a fairy tale, right? But for centuries, stories and some pretty strange alleged discoveries have kept the speculation alive. What you're seeing here are two famous examples that have become part of this mystery's folklore, the Irish giant and the San Diego giant mummy. Now, whether they're real or not is a huge debate, but they stand for this question that just hangs in the air. Are there physical traces of this ancient story left behind?
And the story for these giants, it doesn't just end when they die. Oh no. The book says that because they were born from this weird mix of celestial spirit and human flesh, their own spirits were cursed. So after their massive bodies died, their spirits would be trapped here on Earth, becoming what the book calls evil spirits, a source of corruption that would plague humanity forever.
But this story isn't just about fallen angels and their giant kids. It's about the man who saw it all and wrote it down. So now we turn to the prophet's own cosmic visions, his journey beyond the veil. You see, Enoch, the 7th descendant from Adam, he wasn't just some guy writing down stories. He was chosen to be a messenger, to actually travel into the heavens, witness the secrets of creation itself, and then come back with a message of judgment for everyone involved. His journey was, wow, it was something else entirely. He describes it himself, saying, "The winds in the vision caused me to fly and lifted me upward and bore me into heaven." Think about that. This was a mortal man getting a guided tour of the entire cosmos. And what did he see up there? It wasn't just angels. He saw the nuts and bolts of creation itself. He was shown the secrets behind lightning and thunder. He saw the storerooms of the winds and the hail. He learned the patterns of the stars, and even said he read from the heavenly tablets, where every single destiny is written down. So where does that leave us? Well, that brings us to our last section, a legacy in shadow. Because even after centuries of being buried, this story, it has left some powerful echoes through time. And here's the thing, this story about giants and divine beings, It's not just in the Book of Enoch. Look at this ancient Sumerian tablet. You can clearly see these huge royal-looking figures being waited on by much smaller humans. It really makes you wonder, is the story in Enoch just one version of a memory that was shared by cultures all over the ancient world? The connection gets even deeper when you look at another text they found with the Dead Sea Scrolls, the Book of Giants. One piece of it describes the giants being led towards the foot of the Sumaru mountain. Mount Sumaru, that's the sacred cosmic mountain at the center of the universe in Hindu, Jain, and Buddhist beliefs. The echoes of this one story span continents and completely different cultures.
So let's just quickly recap its wild ride. Way back in ancient times, it was loved, it was accepted as scripture. Then, by the 2nd century AD, it was condemned, even cursed. After that, it was lost to the entire Western world for over a millennium. And now, in our time, it's been found again, and it's forcing us to ask some really tough questions about our own history.
Which leaves us with one last lingering thought. This entire story of a cosmic rebellion, of forbidden knowledge, of a history that was deliberately erased, was itself buried for centuries. And it just makes you wonder, if this was hidden, what else is still out there, just waiting to be found?